There's usually an initial kind of euphoria
Yeah.
that you've got to, oh, fantastic, it's happened. I've waited all this time and now it's happened. Unfortunately, that doesn't always stay.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't always last. And you can actually feel quite anxious. You can actually feel quite guilty about not being able to celebrate this.
Yeah. You have to repair trust, and you do that one step at a time. If you can do it together and understand the journey that you're on, that will make it shorter and more powerful. Hi there, welcome to Bottle Up Podcast for Families. I'm Lou.
And I'm John, and today we're going to talk about recovery.
We'll be looking at the elements which make up recovery: trust, respect, anger, anxiety, and relapse. So we've come to this magical moment when your drinker, either an intervention or maybe they've gone to rehab or they're down at AA and it's kicking in. And so you've got to this wonderful moment when your partner has finally stopped drinking.
Absolutely.
So that's amazing, first of all.
Yeah.
If you've got to that point and you're listening to this, then we're just really thrilled for you. And we're doing this podcast because it's more complicated than it sounds, isn't it? You kind of think they've stopped drinking happily ever after, which I wish we could say it was, but it's much more layered than that, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, it's much more layered. I mean, but the last thing we want to do is put a damper on things, This is a great moment, This is the moment you've been hoping for, waiting for. But unfortunately, it's not the end. But what I will say is it's a new beginning.
Yes.
And you have to see it in that light.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
There are issues that you will have to take care of, but you're taking care of them in a different atmosphere, and that's very important.
Yeah. I think one of the complications too is that your partner knows what's going on in their head.
Yes.
And they know that they've reached the point where instead of saying that they're going to do something about it, they know it's kicking in. So it's a really important moment for them as well.
Yeah.
So you've got this delicate balance that you've got to take, really.
Yeah.
Encouraging your drinker or your non-drinker at that point, and recognizing that they're feeling really, really good. And wouldn't it be lovely if you could just then go off into the sunset together and live happily ever after? And I've had a point with my drinker where he stopped for a year. And I wanted to feel really happy, but I wasn't.
Why was that?
Because I got so geared into waiting for the non-drinking to become drinking again that for quite a long time, in a way, I was, I talked about locking hope in a cupboard. Well, hope began to knock on the cupboard to get out, but I wasn't sure that I wanted hope to come out again because I was managing my disappointment really carefully at that point. So if your drinker stopped drinking and you're actually thinking, I don't know about this, is this going to really kick in? That's absolutely normal. That's going to be the reaction of someone living with a drinker. And I have to say I felt really conflicted about that. I knew that they wanted me to rejoice, and I really wanted to rejoice, but actually I was thinking my trust has been so shattered, I'm not sure I'm ready to rejoice yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly normal. I think what we want to do as human beings is we want to have our emotions to be neat, to all lie in straight lines, so that I'm happy, and that's all I am.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with free songs.
Yes.
I'm happy. When you go down the menu of emotions, you go, what's the simple one here? I don't want rooibos tea with peppermint in it. I just want to, And it's the same with the emotions. We just want the simple, straightforward, and it doesn't come like that.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't happen like that. You have been hyper-vigilant for all this time. You're waiting all the time. Is this the day they're going to get pissed? Is this the day they're going to go in the bender? Is this the day? And all of a sudden, you've got this longer period but you're still waiting.
Yeah.
You're still all coiled up
Absolutely.
emotionally,
Yeah, it's true.
waiting for that to
Yeah.
happen. And it takes quite a long time to sort of,
So well, we're rebuilding trust.
you're right, rebuilding trust, you're rebuilding respect.
Yeah.
You know, these are really, really difficult things to do.
Trust is a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because you take it for granted if you love someone. You don't even think, I'm trusting them. You trust them. And when that gets broken, it's like the ground is taken away from your relationship. And like your partner then, who's not drinking, goes out going past a pub and they have no intention of going in.
Yeah.
But you don't trust them anymore. So you maybe feel you want to follow them up the road or, ask them where they went, which is hard for the person who's given up drinking because in their mind now, there's no problem. I'm not drinking anymore.
No. You're quite right. I mean, trust is something that we just take for granted.
Yeah.
Trust is like air.
Yeah.
When you're breathing it in, it's fine.
Yeah.
But suddenly start to take it away, then you start to suffocate.
Yeah.
And you can feel as if you're suffocating in a relationship when the trust is not there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that lack of trust comes with guilt.
Yeah.
Because it's back to what you were saying. I want to be really happy.
Yes.
Because this is the bit that I've been waiting for all of this time, and now it's here, and I'm spoiling it.
Yeah.
I'm spoiling it because I don't have the trust.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it. I'm just waiting. It's the sort of Damocles. I'm waiting, or the Queen song, waiting for the hammer to fall.
Yeah.
Any time now it's going to happen.
If you're going through recovery, I mean, this would be really good if you listen to this with your drinker. Because the drinker can get quite offended because what they're hoping for is they've finally given you the gift that you've been waiting for years and years and years, and they lay it at your feet.
Yeah.
And instead of picking that up like a bunch of flowers and putting it in water, you stick it in the sink for a minute, not wanting to put it in a vase. And that is really understandable because it's much more complicated for me, which is hard for the drinker.
Absolutely.
And hard for us.
You see, the problem was the drinker, as far as the drinker was concerned.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, okay, all the way through the drinking, he blamed you for the drinking or everybody else. But now the drinkers stop drinking. It's about an individual recovery.
In his head.
In his head.
Okay.
I'm the one who's doing all the work. I'm the one who stopped drinking. I'm the one who's, it's all about me. I'm the one who's going to meetings. I'm the one who's making the sacrifices. And so what are you bothered about? As you say, here I am. I've laid this at your feet. Be happy.
Yes.
But what the drinker doesn't recognise is that it's not an individual recovery any more than it was an individual problem.
Yeah.
It's a family problem and a family recovery. And I think this is what is very often missing from the addiction field, is that it's all focused on the drinker, the drug addict, the addict. And the family sort of, at best, second best. At best, second best. And what we have to realise is that we all have to recover together in this one.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think the other thing, forgive me for saying this, I know you've been a drinker. To continue to pursue their drink, people have to kind of close down to all their other senses in quite a radical way, I think.
Yeah. I think that's very true. And I think what places like AA and other agencies do is that they concentrate on your recovery.
Yeah.
Now, that's completely understandable. And I mean, the whole NHS was built sort of on that premise. And now they're starting to realise, with opening like hospices and things like that somebody's got cancer. That's a family problem.
Yeah.
That's a family problem. There isn't quite the same recognition when it comes to addiction.
No.
And it's far, far more complex. Your drinker is a new person.
Yeah.
So you're actually in a new courtship.
Yeah.
You're in a new relationship. And you're not entirely sure how that relationship's going to go.
No, and I think that's more in the drinker's head to start off with than it is in the partner's head, because you need time to recover from the old courtship.
Yes.
And this is where it's really important. Just to get back to the issue of trust, because it's likely there will be maybe drinkers and their partners listening to this. I think if you can really understand where you're both coming from, the drinker, that your partner has had trust let down so many times that it needs time to repair. So it's important that the drinker doesn't get all blamey about that, but actually recognises that they've done a major blow to the basis of a relationship, I think, trust.
Yeah.
And so to almost over reassure. I'll tell you where I'm going. If you like, just check in, and build up that reassurance. For example, if someone has suddenly nearly died of a heart attack, I would be checking up on you a lot more for a while, just bringing it up to make sure that you were still there.
Absolutely.
And your partner, you can do that if you're a drinker that stopped drinking, to your partner. They need reassurance that you're being trustworthy. They need to know what's going on in your head to be translated into language that they can understand. I know I was doing this, but I want you to know, and I want you to be reassured that I'm now doing that. And I think if you want this first bit of repairing trust to go well, then I would say to the drinker, over reassure if you have to, because the quicker you do that, the quicker the trust is likely to grow.
Okay. I agree with everything that you're saying.
Yes.
But,
yes.
Okay, I'm over here and I'm the drinker.
Yeah.
And I'm having to reassure you all the time, and you're checking up on me all the time. Therefore, you don't trust me. Therefore, what's the point? And that's really difficult for the drinker. You're treating me like a child. I may have behaved like one, but that's neither here nor there. You're treating me like a child. And, and that lack of trust is very, very difficult for the drinker. The very first AA meeting I ever went to was fascinating, because my wife had phoned up AA. This guy arrived in the car, drove down. I said, what do you expect? How often do you go to these meetings? And he said, oh, I go every night. And I said, well, what does your wife think about this? And he said, she's just happy I'm sober. And I said, but how does she know? She never sees you, And for him, that was perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
And even me, who was not recovering, thought, I'm not sure that that's a great idea. And I think what was missing, and what is often missing in recovery, is that the drinker and the partner are in silos,
Yes,
with their own recovery. And what has to happen is they need to come together. And that the recovery needs to be a family one. And if in order that to happen, they need to sit and discuss these things. They need to talk it through. It's almost like building, well, it is actually, you're building a completely new relationship. A relationship where the other person is sober.
Yeah.
And that's something that you as a partner are not used to. And that's something that the drinker is not used to. When I got sober, I was expecting accolades for all the things I did, like paying bills,
Yes.
And somebody said to me, but that's what you're supposed to do.
Yes.
And and they came away with this phrase that I wasn't entirely sure I was happy with, which was, getting sober is just growing up. And I thought, what do you mean? I'm a responsible adult. But the more I realised it, the more it's back to, we were talking about one time when I was talking about, if you're an addict, then very often you are stuck in immaturity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's becoming more mature again. And that only happens with time. It only happens with time.
That's where actually I have to say that you can usually tell when someone's done a 12-step program, because a lot of it is geared up to not just respecting yourself, but going back and making amends and, asking for forgiveness and repairing what damage you've done to the outside world and your relationships, which I think is really helpful. And you can really, I as a counsellor can really tell when people have done a 12-step program.
It's very important because some people who want to sort of change, they stop drinking. End of story. And you go, aha. So what? How do you stay stopped? And it's the staying stopped that's the difficult part of it.
Yeah.
I always say that. I love the saying with Mark Twain. He was talking about smoking, but he said, stopping smoking's easy. I've done it hundreds of times. It's the staying stopped that is a problem.
Yeah.
And AA, their program is really good for this, because what they do is they start off, first 3 are all about stopping drinking. Then the next ones are about repairing the past, the apologies, etc. The next ones are about looking at you and repairing you. And then the last ones are about maintaining sobriety.
Yeah.
And you have to work through all of these. There's a big difference between abstinence and sobriety. Just abstinence, very often people talk about dry drunk, and it's people who have not done any work on themselves, and that becomes really quite difficult.
The primary thing I think to say to, if your couple's listening to this, which you may well be, is that when you first fell in love, the things that you gave your partner, intimacy, respect, trust, all of these things were normal. They were a normal part of falling in love. If you stop drinking, all of these different things need to be reestablished. They are no longer given, if you like, free. The free gift of falling in love when there's been no pain is that it all comes out of your heart with no yes buts. If you're actually repairing a relationship after addiction, then these different emotions, need to be worked through together. So, for example, respect.
Respect is, again, one that very often as drinkers who are now sober, you just expect respect. And I keep saying to people, respect is not something that you can just demand. It has to be earned.
Yeah.
And which is not the most popular thing for people to say, but it's true. You can't just demand respect. And you're having to earn it all over again, because you had lost a lot of the respect. In fact, I lost a lot of self-respect as well.
I think, you need to recover as a drinker.
And the same with trust. For the first year of sobriety, I didn't actually know whether I was going to make it to the end of that year.
Really?
Right to finally, when I got 1 year sobriety, I sort of went, it was a relief. So it's hardly surprising. The family are going, is they going to make it? And are they going to be sober today? Are they, becoming hyper-vigilant?
There is an interim respect that you can give your drinker right away in spades, and that is that they have stopped drinking, which is absolutely massive. So if you're a partner, give that respect in spades.
Yeah.
And that'll be there for coming on with, and just say the rest has to be kind of built up again.
Yeah.
Earned is not a good word. Built up is probably a better. It gives a kind of to earn something, you feel a bit of pressure. To say it would be great if it could be built up, I think is more empowering to use personally, that term.
If you want, I'm happy with the word earned, because I feel that that's what I did, because I earned it. I earned the respect.
Okay, so we're beginning to repair trust. Try and put it out there on the table, the different tensions that's going to involve, and understand each other's, where you're coming from. That's going quite well, and the respect is beginning to return. I'm beginning to believe this time we might make it. And so then,
yes,
horror of all horrors, I suddenly start accessing all the stuff that I've sat on through a lot of this journey, particularly the anger. I've learned that, if I get angry too, then that escalates things. So I have this whole room of emotions that I'm not even going to access, although I don't know any of this yet, until we've got to a point where I'm beginning to think this is going to work.
Mhm.
And it's so important, if you're listening to this, that you understand this, because it is going to happen. You're going to start talking to yourself and you're going to start saying, I feel really crap down here.
Mhm.
I've got a whole load of submerged things that I want to talk about. And we're talking about these things now. I've got things to say. And that's the anger. I'm going to deliberately did that because we're angry.
Yep.
And finally, we think we
Yeah.
might get a hearing. You know, it's really funny. As I'm saying this, I'm just I'm accessing that feeling. I never got this with my husband. You know, we went a kind of a different route in the end. But yeah, this comes out from time to time, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah.
We're having a good therapy session here.
Yes.
Just for 5 minutes.
Nope, I'm not.
Yeah. No, I mean, what it's left me with, and I've had to really learn to calm this bit down, is this strong desire to be heard, because for many, many years I had to just really sit on that bit. And as you can see, if you're listening to this, I can still access that feeling, and in heightened emotions, it can come out. So probably not a good idea to pour all that out on the drinker, is it?
No, but understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have gone through all this drinking time where all sorts of things were happening, and and then you get to a point where the drinker has stopped, and there should be relief, and you should be really happy about it, and it should be okay, and you're feeling guilty about not being so happy for the drinker, and so happy for yourself, and as you say, you're just starting to relax, and then one morning you're waking up and think, I remember what he or she did on the 4th of January 19, and off you go.
Yeah.
And you think, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And then it's almost as if somebody has just taken a plunk out and all that stuff comes out because you've sat in it all of this time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go away. It has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's, again, we go back to, you need to have the communication. But at that point, maybe some of the communication has to be done with somebody else rather than with the drinker
maybe
themselves.
Go see a friend or a counsellor.
Yeah.
I mean, it slightly grieves me because I don't know. It doesn't seem to me, it could be wrong, a huge amount out there for the recovery process. Would you say that there is, and I just don't know much about it? Or
What do you mean for families?
Yes, quite complex kind of journey they're going to go through.
Yeah, well, there's Al-Anon. There's one of, there are other organisations, but no, there's not a huge amount out there. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we started Bottled Up in the first place, was because there wasn't an awful lot for families.
Yeah.
And that's why we started to talk about these kind of things, because nobody was talking about it.
I mean, if you are, as a drinker, feel you are becoming more secure and stable emotionally, for your partner to say, I've just got hold of a load of anger, can I tell you what it felt like to sit on that anger? If you can have a conversation and reach out to each other, it would be very powerful.
It would be. It depends how fragile
the
drinker is at that point, or the ex-drinker is at that point.
Yeah.
Because some of them, it might be, it might be too much. It might be too much. But again, that's not your problem.
No.
The drinker makes their own decision whether they drink or they don't drink. It's not your job to keep them sober.
No.
It's not. You might feel it is, but it's not.
No, you can easily get into that because you spent half your life managing them.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's not your job. Mm-hmm. Getting sober is about taking responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's on both sides. Both sides have to take responsibility, but they take their own responsibility. Otherwise, you're trying to control the world. Mm. And yes, having somebody to talk to, again, at this stage is very good. Just because the person is sober, you don't get rid of your confidence. The people that you shared with before, they are good people to say, yeah, now that they're sober, this is what's happening, and this is what I feel, and I feel all this anger, and I feel all this resentment, and I feel all... But what you have to, again, remember is this is natural.
Yeah.
This is not unnatural. It's natural.
Can I just say, interject at this point, if you haven't got money for a counsellor or whatever, you could just do a recovery journal that you actually just put all those feelings down, listen to yourself, be kind to yourself. It's very powerful if you allow yourself to speak, and you embrace those emotions. I'm a great one for embracing emotions and, letting your emotions know you're on their side and you're going to take care of yourself. And all of these things are really powerful on your journey. So if you cannot find somebody, then write it in a journal. Again, if you have a faith of some sort, write it to the higher power, and then that you can access love at that point. But it is important that you understand, A, you're going to feel it, and B, it is important to look at those feelings and to begin to let them out. Anxiety as well.
Yes, anxiety, because you will still be anxious. As I said, it took me a year to even consider that I might get to the, stay sober. So why would it not be the same for the partners?
And paradoxically, the more you let the other person in, the more you build that trust, the more you're able to access all of those emotions, the more scary it actually becomes. Because, you're thinking, okay, I'm opening up now. Is it wise to do this? And probably 2:00 in the morning is when my anxiety comes and sits at the end of the bed and starts talking to me. That anxiety will say, "You sure you want to do this? What are you doing? You know what this is like, So again, you'll have to work through that period. But it's understandable. Gather that anxiety. Say, of course you're fearful. Look at what you've been through. Give that part of you a cuddle, and bring that part into your heart, and then it will know that you're listening. And you're kind of saying to yourself, "I get it. It's okay. It's okay to feel anxious. We're going to get through this. We're going to be safer as we go along." So that it's important to understand that.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand it's natural, uncomfortable, not very nice, but natural. And it's also important to understand it's a stage. It's a stage on the way through a recovery, that you're going to pass this speed bump on the road, and then things will get easier and easier and easier. The anxiety will be less. Your trust will be growing. Your respect will be growing. And hopefully you will be building a good relationship.
And the other thing is, when you've gone through all of those, you've realized now, maybe 2 or 3 years even, and it's working and it's going to be okay. Even then, in fact, at that point, may be the time when you really get in touch with how much pain you've been through. That pain given to your partner is going to take a while.
Yes.
Can I say to drinkers out there, please don't, it is personal, okay, to you. I know it feels personal, but if you can listen and understand what your partner's going through, your partner has had to do a lot of this journey without you being around, It's like you've not been there. To actually listen and be able to hear what's been going on will deepen your relationship so quickly. If you can hear and understand and reach out and say, "I'm sorry, I love you," that will repair her heart. Asking for forgiveness and saying, "I'm sorry, I love you," is one of the most repairing sentences that you can give, as long as, again, that doesn't become toxic.
Yeah, strong relationships are forged in, sort of problems.
Yeah.
They're not forged in good times, they're forged in problems. And this is just a problem that you have to sort of overcome. And if you just, again, communicate with each other, then it'll help. But it is a growing process.
Yeah, and just one thing about kids. If you've got kids, particularly kids that were aware of what was going on, you'd probably, to start off with, have a kind of a reconciliation, and they will be so glad that there's recovery, but they're going to need their time, and they may start kicking off. Kids have a habit of doing the kind of going through their stuff in another arena and think, "Well, what's all that about?" You have to trace it back to the arena it came from. Kick off for a while. If they're younger, they may do it, by having tantrums. If they're older, they might suddenly get cross and everything. Be aware that they have carried a lot of pain.
Or school issues.
Yeah, school issues. Yeah. So that's bound to be part of it as well.
The last thing I hesitate to bring it up is relapse.
Yeah, we've got to talk about relapse.
We've got to talk about relapse, and I wish I didn't, but we do. Relapses can happen.
Did you relapse?
Did I relapse?
Yeah.
It took me 2 years to get sober.
Right, okay.
But when I finally stopped, no, I have never relapsed since.
Okay.
But I went to AA, I went to the doctor, I went to and
So you practiced getting
yes.
sober for
Oh, yeah. I had lots of false starts.
Yeah.
I had lots of false starts.
That's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's often said that to give up any addiction can take 5 to 7 attempts.
Okay.
And that's talking about smoking, and any change in behaviour. You just think for a moment about your gym membership that you bought at the beginning of the year with your New Year's resolution. How often have you used that? How often have you fallen off the diet? How often do you know what I mean? Behaviour change is always a bit difficult. It can take a while and a lot of false starts. But we have to see relapses for what it is. The relapse comes in 3 stages. It's a lapse, which is a couple of drinks. The relapse, which might be quite a lot of drinks, and then there's the collapse. So we have to stop a lapse becoming a collapse. And sometimes, believe it or not, a relapse can be a positive thing.
Right, that's interesting.
Yes, it is, because it can actually teach you something.
You're talking to the drinker here now,
yes.
Not to
the drinker is sort of can often say, "Well, I've got it sussed this time. I've got it. I'm okay. I know exactly what to do. I know how to control it. I know what." And then all of a sudden they go, "What happened? What happened?" And I had to find that out a few times. As I said, and that my wife was the problem. If it hadn't been for her, I would have drank like a gentleman. And I went to the pub after she walked out, and I drank like a gentleman for 15 minutes at least. And then I was off running. And then I had no one to blame. So in that respect, if it hadn't been for my last relapse, I probably would not be sober today.
Okay, so if you're a partner, and the relapse happens, first of all, if you can, try to look at the journey the person has gone on rather than all the stuff that happened before. It would be understandable, but not very helpful to start pouring all the disappointment out. But if they've been sober for a while, say to them, well, you've done really great up to now. Let's look at how far you've got, rather than, and then that makes it a lapse, not a relapse, really. Yes, you have to really contain that, and you can help with that. Yeah.
And the other thing, as you say, is to look at, okay, they've been sober for 8 weeks, and then they collapsed. That's good.
Yeah,
that's 8 weeks that they didn't have before. So it's starting to look at it in that way.
And you do that when you're working with drinkers, don't you?
I do that when I'm working with drinkers all the time. I look for progress rather than perfection. Obviously, I'm wanting perfection, but I'm looking for progress, and that's important. And again, that's important to help build the confidence and the motivation of the drinker as well. Is to see it in that light.
Yeah, so it's just, remember this in case your drinker does get a relapse. That John, and we're going to do his story. There is always hope. And again, if your partner relapses, there is hope for change always.
What would you take away from this? There's usually an initial kind of euphoria that you've got to, oh, fantastic, it's happened. I've waited all this time and now it's happened. Unfortunately, that doesn't always stay.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't always last. And you can actually feel quite anxious. You can actually feel quite guilty about not being able to celebrate this. And that can be difficult for you.
You have to repair trust, and you do that one step at a time. If you can do it together and understand the journey that you're on, that will make it shorter and more powerful.
And remember, recovery is a family thing. It's not an individual thing. People recover individually, but within the family circle. And remember that. And communication.
And also be kind to yourself. If you're the partner in recovery, you are going to access stuff, and that is perfectly normal in this situation. And it's bit by bit you're rekindling trust, respect, desire, intimacy, all of these lovely emotions that are part of love.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening today. There is more on the process of recovery on our website, www.bottle-up.com.
Please like and subscribe this podcast, and please leave us a good review. It helps us a lot, and join us next time. See you soon.